In this video, I want to talk to you about a concept that you have probably heard before, but I want to look at it in a slightly new light, which I think really, if you think a lot about it, it can even change your life. This concept is that powerful. Now, the idea I want to talk to you about is the Pareto Principle. Now, you may have heard of it as the 80-20 rule, and it was first devised by an Italian economist, Vilfredo Pareto, and he lived back in the late 19th century, early 20th century, and he discovered a really curious thing, a curious phenomenon, that 80% of the wealth was held in 20% of the hands. And from that, he actually discovered sort of more curious facts to do with his 80-20 rule. He realized that it actually applied in many other areas. And for instance, say the traffic in certain streets in a city, well, 80% of the traffic would actually go along 20% of the thoroughfares, 20% of the streets. Now, if we look at this in modern times, we can actually apply it to our lives in very interesting ways, because you might be saying, well, how should I spend my money, for instance? Well, if we apply the Pareto Principle, then you might say, well, how do I spend my time? What do I do with my time? Well, you might go, well, I spend a third of my life more or less in bed, sleeping. Well, if that's the case, you should actually allocate a serious amount of your funds to your bed, to making it really comfortable, to a nice pillow or cushion, because you'll be spending so much time on that bed. Or you might think about your shoes, for instance, because your shoes, you will be wearing them potentially 16 plus hours a day. So rather than get stingy with shoes, rather than go to Kmart and buy the $20 pair, the cheapest pair you can find, you should say, well, since so much of my life I'll be wearing shoes, it makes sense to invest more in a really high quality pair of shoes or several sets of shoes that are comfortable, that are quality, that I'll enjoy wearing, because those shoes will make a difference to so much of your life. You might even think the same with your phone or your computer or things that you just use a lot. Or let's apply it to the house and say, well, using the Pareto Principle, we discover that, say, 80% of your time will be spent in 20% of your house. So we've already talked about the bedroom and your bed, but maybe you spend a few hours every day on a sofa in the living room. Well, if that's the case, make sure it's a nice sofa you really enjoy spending time in. Or maybe you like to cook. Well, get yourself some good cooking appliances, because again, you're using them a lot. If it were clothes, for instance, that you wear, you might say, well, firstly, look at the Pareto Principle and you'll discover that more or less 20% of your clothes you wear 80% of the time. Now, we know there's so many of the clothes in our wardrobe are just never used. And so we can use then the Pareto Principle to say, if I'm only going to be wearing a small set of clothes, and think about it, you wear clothes every day, so they're an important item, then invest quite a bit in them. It'll be better, in fact, to get higher quality but fewer items of clothing, because that will make the biggest qualitative difference in your life. But, and here is the point to the spiritual community, people like us, we can really apply the Pareto Principle to a much more important thing still. You might even see this as the ultimate Pareto hack. And that is, if we look at our life, there is only one constant in it, and that is ourselves. So we are the constant in our life, and more importantly, our emotional state is the one significant factor. So we take our emotional state with us wherever we go, and it colors everything we do. So if we're grumpy, then that grumpiness colors our entire day. Everything we encounter in that state of grumpiness gets kind of tainted by the grumpiness. If we're feeling enthusiastic, if we're feeling happy, then again, everything we encounter in those states will be colored positively, in this case, by the enthusiasm, by the happiness, by whatever it might be. So if we really want to kind of extract the maximum from our life, then wouldn't it make sense to invest a lot in our emotional well-being? That should really be the primary thing, because that will affect every single thing we do. It will even affect the quality of our sleep. So it's pretty well 24/7 the effect. So what that means is you should never, ever, ever be stingy when it comes to investing in yourself, be that spending time working on yourself or even investing in courses or whatever it might be to then further develop yourself, because that will indeed be the best investment you ever make. It will be the investment that has the largest effect on your life, more so than pretty well anything else, because it affects your emotional state, which, as we said, impacts everything in your day. And that really then is the takeaway from this video. Often we don't spend enough time working on ourselves. We get busy doing other things. We maybe shy away from doing courses, for instance, because they take time, money, etc. But we should see it as the ultimate investment. So ponder this, go out, use the Pareto Principle, not just investing in yourselves, but also investing in items or whatever it might be. You'll find it quite fascinating, and use it to spend your time and money strategically, and you'll find you'll get a much better return on your investment.